The setting of Nova wouldn't be possible for not the Nova event that kicked everything off. In this video, I'll be covering the events that led up to the destruction of Oberyn's sun, and we're going to start to get our first glimpses as to what is really going on in this setting. As was mentioned in an earlier video, the people of Oberyn had been detecting massive solar flares with these sort of mirroring energy spikes that were coming from Zed for decades. It was eventually determined during this process that the sun had grown massively unstable in ways that nobody could have predicted, and certainly faster than any celestial timeline should have calculated. Because humanity had sacrificed their colony ships in order to terraform the planets of the Oberyn system, fleeing back into the stars was not an option. They had some inter-system craft that they had developed, but nothing that could carry hundreds of thousands of people occupying the planet. It was proposed that the best possible option was to build massive bunkers across the planet and to migrate the population below the surface. There, they would be placed in a sort of stasis sleep, only to awaken later in an attempt to try and reclaim the world, should they even survive. If the planet were to fall while they slept, the people would be in blissful ignorance of the destruction. The efforts took years to complete. The stasis technology wasn't new to them. It had been used during the long journeys between the stars in the terraforming ships, but repurposing that technology for the bunker system took time. Alongside this, efforts were made to try and save as much knowledge as possible in massive digital libraries within the bunkers. If humanity was to survive this event, they would need guidance on the other side. 3 years before the Nova event hit Oberyn, the first pieces of the sun broke off and began hurtling their way toward the planets and suns that orbited it. With little time left, the people of Oberyn made their final preparations and began their long sleep underground. The Nova event didn't happen in an instant, but instead was a protracted devastation of the planet Oberyn and the other planets and moons in the system. The event is marked when the first shard of the sun made planetfall, crashing down to the surface and causing a massive firestorm of destruction in the area surrounding it. Over the course of months, more of these shards would impact the planet. Most areas of development were destroyed entirely, either from impact or the fires that followed. Some areas of the planet were less affected, and there would be bastions of old Oberyn, places where some of humanity's old technology and knowledge would remain for decades before discovery. Some of the bunkers were destroyed during the Nova. Shards would impact directly on top of the sites, obliterating everything in an instant. Some bunkers were less lucky, and would be overwhelmed with the firestorms that raged in the wake of the shardfall. Oberyn was not the only planet to suffer this fate. Across the whole system, moons and planets were bombarded with these pieces of the sun. However, given its proximity to the sun, Oberyn suffered the worst fate of it. Alongside this destruction, the sun would slowly disappear from the sky, being eclipsed before eventually winking out forever. Decades would pass after the Nova event before humanity would begin to wake up and attempt to reclaim the surface. What they would find above would change their lives forever. The people of Oberyn today say that the sun exploded when the Nova happened, but that's not entirely accurate. Of course, if the sun had actually exploded, the planet would have been wiped out entirely, or at the very least flung out into the darkness of space with nothing to orbit any longer. Instead, something far more sinister happened. The sun did not explode. In fact, it's still there, exactly where it has always been. Instead, it has been wrapped up by an entity given many names by the people of Zed. The Maw, Druzal's Grace, or just simply the Void. This malignant force has made its presence known in the Oberyn system. It has come to claim a debt long owed, and the price is the sun itself. Basically, the sun is being choked and devoured very, very slowly. Its gravitational pull keeps Oberyn and all the other planets in orbit, and its void-tainted light has been filtered through this Maw, this Druzal's Grace, and warped anything and everything it touches. So what is the Void then? What is the debt that it is collecting? How is the void affecting Oberyn today? Well, to understand that, we'll need to look to the furthest planet in the system, Zed, and the atrocities they committed there to doom humanity. But we'll save that for a future video. Until next time, make sure you subscribe, and if you have any questions about lore, leave them down in the comments.